interesting like race topic that I know I spoke with my friend Shane, who was my old roommate in college. He had never fully understood the fact that black women weren't fond of black men dating white women.
You can't say all.
Not all, but you know how there is that like tension. He had never experienced it until he went to school in Virginia, because growing up in the Caribbean, it was not like he heard of it, but it was more like, I hear that's a problem. It's when he started going to law school in Virginia, and one of his boys from law school said that he unilaterally doesn't date black women, and the way the black women reacted, that was his first interaction with that.
Okay.
So, like, I feel like you probably have a lot more, like, feelings towards, like, a black man saying, I don't date, like, experiencing a black man hitting a level of success and saying, I don't date black women anymore, right? Because it might have been something that you may have come across more often in a sense.
I get your point, but I'm the wrong person to use.
You just don't care. I know.
I mean, you ain't sleeping with me, so whoever you sleep with is your business. And plus, I have plenty of mixed cousins. Yeah. So the whole idea of interracial dating doesn't bother me. I've dated interracially.
I mean, I generally don't care one way personally.
But I get that there are some women that have that issue, some black women that have that issue. And,
like, I think not growing up here, you might not have
those
a
types
full
of
understanding,
knowledge of those,
of like how serious that is to some people. Because I remember he had a conversation with me. He was like, I didn't realize that to some folks it was that big of a deal. Because to him, it had just been something like, supposedly, like you see it on TV and you laugh it off, like, it's a joke, right?
Oh, they can't be serious.
Yeah.
No, they are.
And then you see it in person and you're like, oh shit, like you really take this personally. So I think that is...
I can see someone taking more the idea of it and the politics behind it versus the individual person and their statement, because I feel like it's just a demeaning of black women, depending on what their rationale behind it. As in, black women argue too much, and black women, it's so demeaning of, their men.
I think the race thing became more serious once our president was actually half black. Because then all the people who said, I'm not really racist, started having all these little sideways comments like, oh, but is he even really American? And it was like, oh.
Now you mean like in terms of people that you know personally?
Yeah. Okay. And that's when I started to see, like, because that's when I used to have like conversations with some of my boys. Like, today somebody at work made a real iffy comment about like, oh, but is he even really an American? Like, you need to see the birth certificate. And I remember I responded once to them, and because and this is where you see like that actual personal attachment, where I take it personally. One of his parents is an immigrant, right?
Yes.
Both of my parents are immigrants, but my two youngest brothers are full-blood born United States American citizens born in New York State, right? So my question to one of my coworkers once was like, okay, so, because they were like, why are you so offended we're asking for the birth certificate? I was like, because you're only asking for it because you're making the assumption he may not be American because his father was an immigrant. So you're telling me that if you and my little brother go for the same job, because you're lily white, we're supposed to assume
that you're
an American citizen, right? Or even still, because both your parents are American citizens, we assume automatically, just because you say you're an American citizen. But because my because my parents are not natural-born American citizens, they have to bring an extra level of proof, especially when the presidency is designed with a system where he should have been vetted before he was even nominated. Like, there's a system. There's a system in place.
You don't get that far and be like, whoops, we made this big mistake. It doesn't work that way.
So, and when I said it to that guy, he was like, yes, your brothers are supposed to bring an extra level of...
Oh, okay.
I was like, Alrighty then.
Well, there's no argument to your point. You know?
I was like,
there's that.
You have proven to me where you stand on this topic.
Yeah.
So, and like, you see, that to me is a first level interaction that you sort of have stories from before. So now, when I have kids, I can tell them, like, this is not something I heard in school. This is some shit that I physically had this conversation and heard. So be mindful of people will say one thing and mean something else. Because before that, we would like to assume that because I'm intelligent and whatnot, that I wouldn't have been naive to believe that if someone tells me, like, you know, I have a lot of black friends, cool, I like, and because they interact with me nicely, that they don't have any, like, underlying, like, secret hatred to me.
Right.
But you don't know that that is not the truth until you physically feel it and feel the shock.
Even the people that you feel like, damn, really?
Yeah, and
Et tu brute, like,
and I think that's the thing. I think people can talk to you and prepare you for it. When you feel the shock of it actually happening, it's like, whoa, okay.
Like someone you've broken bread with, like someone that you've been like, don't worry about it, I got you on lunch bill, like it's nothing. The
dude used to talk to and stare at black women, talk about black women all the time. Like it changed my view of how he even viewed. Because then I started to wonder, like, do you just like black women because you see it as like this taboo thing that you're not supposed to touch?
There was, like, when I was working at Taste, I used to bartend at a strip club. We had plenty of white customers. And they were the ones that kind of creeped you out because you could tell that they were interested. I know there's a word for what it was more like a spectacle sport to them. They were only interested because we didn't look like their wives at home. We didn't look like their girlfriends or anybody that they spent time with. Like,
they don't actually value. You're more like a sideshow piece to them. Now, I get you. Because
they would come just for that. Not because they were just, you know, attracted to black women. Like, some, and then we have some that are just really cool. And just like, you would have been cool with me regardless of what I was. And I see the way you interact with everyone here. Like, I've seen you outside with other people, and
I get what you're saying, because I look at it as, like, I mean, using a strip club is a little bit of a stretch, because there's an extra stretch here. But,
for the most part.
Like, there's the guys that would date the black girl with the essence of, I would marry you and make you my wife and have children with you. And then there seems to be the ones that are like, I just want to fuck a black girl.
Right, basically.
I'll give you back to...
It's like with your analogy from earlier, we were talking the hyena and the wolf.
Yeah.
Like, some dudes are just going to get whatever the weakest one is. The hyena is just going to go for the weakest one out of the bunch and just, like, I'm just going to attack.
Yeah.
But the wolf is actually going to
like
somebody out. I'm going to strategically plan how I'm going to take this one down.
Yeah, exactly. Because he actually values you as, like, a prize, not just as... Like, I've never done this before.
Right.
So, let me just see what this is like.
So, with West Indians and, like, dating, like, how do you guys view dating West Indian women versus American women? Because, of course, I'm going to assume that West Indian women share more.
Well,
and then also, do you date West Indian from your country, or do you just
strangely enough, I think I might have gone on 2 dates with Guyanese girls my entire life. Like, to me, I don't generally see much of a difference. The only odd conversation I've ever had along the West Indian American like line, and I remember Shane was in the room for that too, because we both sort of were like, no, was there's more of a delineated like structure of how a West Indian household works. Like, I'm almost certain, and I mean it's changing because culturally a lot more people are assimilating. But it almost like, at least in my household, and at least in most other West Indian households that I've been a part of, the man does a lot of the physical labor, and the woman does like the cooking and cleaning.
The domestic.
Yeah, and that seems to be like a line that's just like drawn right down. Like most West Indian girls that I know, especially the ones that have grown up in the West Indies much longer than here, or almost like an even split time, they seem to not question the fact that I might be working a full-time job and come home and still cook dinner for my husband, and that's an understood activity. Whereas in the same breath, if the fucking legs fall off the chair, she's looking at me as like, you see the legs just fell off the damn chair. Like, you're expected to go and put the legs back on the chair. So, like, I feel, because there was one time where we had a conversation with an American friend of mine, like full-blown from the South, her entire family, American, and she was like, when she gets married, she's not cooking. Her and her husband have to take turns, which number one, I'm against because I can't cook.
Like, we gotta live.
But two, it was just like, that just seemed odd to me because it wasn't what, I'm not saying it's one way is right or wrong, it's just what I grew up with. So it's like, I have an image of what a working household is because I grew up in a working household. So my parents were married for a long damn time, for as long as I can remember. They've been married. It seems to work. So I'm going to work with what I see that works. So like I said, outside of that one conversation, I don't think I've ever noticed a difference between American and Caribbean folk, with the exception of like music. Like,
well, I will say also that I would prefer to have a partner that cooks just because, like I was telling you earlier, do I feel like cooking today or do I not feel like cooking today? I had the chicken in the fridge.
Like I said, I personally can't cook. A lot of West Indian men can cook.
Mm-hmm.
Like my best friend Troy, he cooks. Like he just happens to love to cook. So he cooks. His wife doesn't cook. Like he loves to cook, so he handles the cooking.
Right.
So I don't think it's like a set in stone line, but I feel like in a West Indian household,
traditional,
it's the kind of thing
roles
that I don't think I would have to rediscuss. I only ever thought I would have to rediscuss
if you dated an American woman,
because it came up in that one conversation. I've met a lot of other American women who clearly look at me sometimes and be like, I don't know what the hell was wrong with that girl. Like, I don't have a problem cooking every day for...
I don't know about every day. You're going to have to deal with some leftovers. Like,
well, yeah. I mean, not every day. But, like, I don't have a problem being the primary cook in the house kind of thing. So...
I don't know how I feel about that. Just because I think I just don't know. I enjoy this single life so much to a degree sometimes because... I eat bacon all day today.
No, I get you. And
like, I just don't want to cook. I enjoy not having to be responsible.
Well, maybe you'll date a man that will just be happy eating bacon.
Oh my God!
All day.
So, do you remember the ex when I moved into Elmont? Yeah. He did all the cooking and most of the cleaning. He was a great person, just not a great boyfriend.
But
that was a good run.
Yeah. So, like, I don't think there's a difference between like black and West Indian when it comes to dating. At least I personally don't think so. An interesting question would be to take that a step further because, like, I think we're overlooking a whole segment of quote unquote black folk because African black is different from West Indian black and American black as well.
Very true.
And I think they have a much more. They have a completely different culture with probably a completely different set of like norms for the household.
Quite possibly that. Don't know.
Yeah. So like, but you see, that goes back to my fact that I feel
it's so diverse. Blackness is just very.
And that's why I don't like when the media tries to group us all in as black because I think they're trying to take away that diversity. I understand Carly's point of we need to come together as a black people, and I understand all the people who make that point. But
only because when you look at any one of us before we open our mouths,
we have to. So we have to support each other.
Some people, of course, you can kind of tell. There are certain characteristics and traits that are going to give away your ethnicity to a degree, your nationality. But walking up the street a block away,
we all look, and I get that part. But I feel like trying to push it too much almost is trying to quell the differences within us, because nobody ever tries to pretend that an Irish person and an Italian person are the same, or that an Italian person and a Spanish person are the same. And it also brings up an interesting point, like, how is it that we view Spanish people from Spain as white, and Hispanic people from like Costa Rica as minorities? It's strange to me, we're both Spanish. at least.
Well,
so European
isn't there a
Spanish
difference
is
where
different?
they're Latin or they're Hispanic versus Spanish? Like Spaniards are Spanish and
So they're the only
Puerto
Spanish
Ricans,
people in the world?
Dominicans are Latin. I think. I don't really know.
I don't know either.
Pretty sure that there's a difference.
But like, to me, like, no one tries to ever pretend that like a Spanish person, Italian person, and an Irish person are all the same, and group them all together. And if you ever did, they would get heavily offended. But then when you try to do it to our cultures and we get offended, we almost get frowned upon for trying to pull away.
Black.
It's not necessarily pulling away. It's just we're not all the same. Like, I have no issue with being referred to as black, but I would like you to know that there's like a double click on black that goes into like other stuff, because it seems
it's a
like
drop down menu.
yeah, it seems like the world seems content to know, like, yeah, there's all these different types of white folk, and then there's black folk. Like, no.
I get your point.
Like,
I get your point.
and I think
there's more to you than just the color.
And I think that's where sometimes people pull away. I mean, in all honesty, it even annoys me from a political sense, because I've gotten into arguments with people on Facebook because I'm not necessarily 100% democratic in certain concepts. And I've had conversations with folk where they're like, you should support this because you're black. I'm like, excuse you? Like, do you pretend to believe what someone's like political beliefs should be because they're white? No.
It's kind of like saying you should support the misogyny in rap music because you're black. Just because the message is being delivered by a black person or to the black community, you should agree with it.
Because I've had debates back and forth with folks on the whole $15 an hour thing for fast food.
Oh, yeah, you shouldn't go into that.
Yeah. Not really too fond of that as a concept. Not necessarily because I don't want people to make more money. I just have my own little irks with it. But I have a friend who has specifically told me that because I'm black, I should support it. Now, number one, I find that to be racist, because now you're making the illusion that all fast food workers are black, and therefore that I should support it to support black people, which is in essence more racist than anything else anybody else can really say. Because that's the only line I can draw. Like, why must I support it because it's black? Because for some reason I have a higher, like, people are higher likelihood to be fast food workers if they're black. Like, that's the only logical conclusion I can draw from that statement. So, like, that's the only other time it ever really bothers me, because people like try to group you into you should believe this or you should support this because
I get it.
You're black, and it's not always exactly true. Like, maybe I support different like tax ideas because I might not make the same amount of money as you.
Right.
So, like,
I worry about my
yeah, I need to make sure I don't get taxed to death. I understand other people have concerns too, but I got to take care of myself as well at some point in time. So
you can't even be mad at that. You really can't even be mad. You have to preserve yourself first. Self-preservation.
Yeah. So, like, to me, that's like the gist of it. Like the double click on just knowing that there's more to me than just being black.
Right. So that whole idea. So essentially, the new idea of blackness. I get your point, but I mean, so we're now. I kind of want to. This makes me want to do like a census check. Like, what was the demographic of the black population that was West Indian in the 60s, in the 50s, and whatnot? Like, I know that there were West Indians here at that point, but
like,
then when you get to now, you're no longer really considered. I mean, I don't say you're no longer really considered West Indian, because essentially that's only like 1 or 2 generations away.
And I mean, that brings up something that I always.
But like, if you were a West Indian, if you were from the West Indies, or if you were of Caribbean descent, like 60 years ago in the country.
No, I get you. Like, that always, like, that brings up something that I always jokingly talk about. When you ask somebody what they are, and they name like 6 different nationalities, like, no, at most I'm gonna accept 2. Because your mother's one thing and your father's something else.
Unless both of your parents are mixed.
So then I'll go up to 4. But if you come in with I'm Native American, Spanish, Black, Indian. Like, come on, son.
Some people are really that diverse.
I understand, but
the majority of people trying to pull that card though really ain't.
And like to me, like
I'm about as mixed as Brooklyn and Queens. That's about as mixed as I'm getting.
Like to me, I always like. So how far back we gonna go?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Because like,
how many trees are we shaking?
Like how deep? Because I've met people who are like. I remember we had I had a conversation at work when I was at Chase, and we were discussing what people's it was a guy. What people's ethnicities were. And this dude went back to the 1700s to pull Dutch. And I was like, son, you're American. You were born in America. Your parents were born in America. If your first set of relatives that were not born in the United States came from the 1700s, just say you're American.
Yep.
Stop right
Let it go.
Like,
let it go.
Why don't you take me on a wild ride?